So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today for Unboxing Growth to Stay Out Front. Um, we today are covering a really, really timely and exciting topic, 5 ways emotional intelligence can help your marketing. So this has been a really important and hot topic for a lot of reasons because of what we've all experienced collectively over across the world, even being more important. And in the realm of digital marketing, where the human connection can get lost, there are some really incredible insights. So today we are joined by our guest speaker, Janis Nakano Spivack, who is an absolute expert in all things customer experience. She's also a deep expert in all things marketing, leadership. She has an incredible background in leadership, like a lot of you on this particular session have, been in executive leadership, and she provides great insights in leadership as well, and in digital marketing. So bringing emotional intelligence to digital marketing is quite something, and we're going to hear a lot more about all of that today. Also with AI. So we can't really talk about marketing these days without addressing and embracing artificial intelligence as well. Well, let's dive into our topic today. Emotional intelligence, as described by Oxford, is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. And that's a lot. That's a lot to demonstrate for one person, and that's a lot to kind of show how people show up in the room. And really, a lot of times, I think it's about showing up and being responsive and sensitive to the other people that you're interacting with, right? It's instead of reaction, really focusing on response, and really taking a moment to actually be very aware and listen to who's around you. So we'll get into more of that. We thought this quote was kind of interesting about high IQ job pool and soft skills like discipline, drive, and empathy mark those who emerge as outstanding. So really, in the end, it's not just about IQ anymore. It's about EQ, right? Those are the imperative soft skills that are so important today. And I just wanted to point out there was a study for Google, and they did a study of a 10-year study, and the best and most effective engineers were those that had the highest EQ, not the most, brilliant and had the highest IQ, but truly those who could drop in, understand the people around them, and demonstrate emotional intelligence. So it's a really, really important soft skill that really only improves performance and effectiveness. And we'll talk about a lot related to that as it pertains to marketing. So the foundation of emotional intelligence is absolutely self-awareness. Really understand how it is that you're showing up to an exchange, right? And so with self-awareness, a lot of times we, instead of just reacting, we need to all take a moment, right? Check in with ourselves, see how we're feeling, really notice. And one of the things that I like to do for self-awareness is take 3 really deep breaths. And when you take 3 deep breaths, it helps to reset your limbic system, right? And then it kind of grounds you and in the moment. So a foundation of emotional intelligence is absolutely knowing how it is that you're participating, how it is that you're showing up. Another foundation of emotional intelligence is self-management. So really checking in with yourself and noticing before you just blurt out something and react is maybe managing and listening. And I would say that all of these attributes come into play really strongly whenever you're dealing with any sort of crisis situation. And Jeanine and I, with Outfront Solutions, have worked on a lot of crisis situations, and self-management is really important in that. As is social awareness. Social awareness is understanding what's going on for the people, right? We checked in with all of you, and a lot of you said you were excited. We want to know, and we all want to understand better where and how people are showing up in the world. And something that was really interesting for us along the way is we were doing a project for a major communications firm, and communications to the communicators for the communicators. And in doing that work, we were doing brand positioning and messaging, and we were arriving at a go to market and positioning and messaging for the company. And yet, when we really tapped into what was going on, and we actually used AI technology, some AI technology that we've spoken about here on Unboxing Growth, Topic Intelligence, it showed us that were in a state of trauma. And not surprising because of all that's going on in the world. So we needed to communicate with all the stakeholders of this communications organization in a way that demonstrated emotional intelligence by showing that we were aware of what was going on for people socially. So whenever we're doing messaging and positioning, we are not only checking in with ourselves, we're listening, and we're also listening to what's going on socially. And so really making sure that we're not tone deaf in how we're going to market and expressing our messaging. And then relationship management. No, it's all about it's about the people that were in relationships business. Each and every one of us are in a relationships business. And so it's really important to, check in with that relationship. And I like to, not just try to seek balance, but, see where it is that I am able to make an offer and a request, and not just be on the side of constantly making requests, right? So that's just an example of relationship management, being aware of how we are navigating each and every relationship. And with emotional intelligence, these are skills that can be learned, can be developed. And so that's the good news for all of us is, maybe we can, exercise some of these things on this slide a little bit more so to be more people focused, to exercise better listening skills and listening skills actively and or with technology. Technology helps us with our listening skills very much so, and we'll hear more about that. To being an active listener, and really to cultivate compassion and be aware of the state that other people are in. I have a healthy meditation practice, and it's called Metta Bhavana, which means loving kindness. And that really is helpful to me in cultivating compassion and really dropping into understanding where people are coming from. And so these skills are really important across business and life, and can be taken into everything that we're doing. And here are just some really interesting statistics that we pulled from various sources. Empathy is ranked as the number one leadership skill. Empathy. It's not the hard skills of, being the, brightest and best in other ways, but empathy and connection with other people. And that leaders who master empathy perform 40% higher in their skills, especially when it comes to coaching, mentoring, and engaging with other people. This emotional intelligence as a predictor of performance is absolutely about moving from immediate reaction, to being thoughtful about response. And we'll talk about that more coming up. And that 95% of people actually think that they're aware. But a lot of times when tested, only 10 to 15% of people are aware. So, that's something to take note. And that 360-degree feedback is always a good indicator. And it's one area where we're all going to want to continue to seek feedback. So those are just some high-level thoughts around emotional intelligence. Now I'm really excited to bring Janis Nakano Spivack to you. Janis and Jeanine and I have actually worked together for 25 years. On and off on some projects. And Janis is going to tell us a lot about her personal journey in and around emotional intelligence and what she's been doing with Zenapse. It's incredible. It's going to blow your mind. And I'm really grateful that you're here, Janis.
Thank you, Nicole. It's a high bar to blow people's minds, but see what we can do.
You always do with me.
So first, thank you to Outfront Solutions. I really just treasure both you and Jeanine's wisdom and support. So thank you. Leadership Global. Linda, I don't know you, but I'm really looking forward to it. And the C-Suite Network, Zenapse, is really grateful that you invited us in. Instead of doing the traditional, here are all the jobs that I had, I thought I would start with what has driven me through my career path and my journey so far. And I think it's mostly about being curious. I'm intensely curious about everything. I'm super interested in people, and mostly in how to take really complex systems and describe them and make them usable in more human-friendly ways. I feel super fortunate that throughout all of the different permutations of my career, which has not been traditional, it's been incredibly eccentric. I've really been fortunate to have long-term relationships through my business networks. And they're deep ones. They're not light ones. It's always been going back, bringing people in. And so that's led me to where I am today, which is co-founding of two companies. And in both, the co-founders are groups of people that have known each other for 25 plus years. And in one case, 30 plus years. And so really it's about being able to connect constantly. And I find that when we begin to talk about technology, it is one of the gifts. There are lots of things. Someone brought up Chat GPT and, I think Bing, there are lots of, things that we might be worried about. But when we think about the gift of social media, like LinkedIn, I have found that they've been incredibly helpful in keeping connected and reconnecting with people in their career journeys. Very quickly, I started my work in the Mad Men era of advertising. So I started as a creative. I used to pitch for those who are younger with drawing things. Believe it or not, there were no computers. You had to draw everything with markers. And that's how I started. I was the only female in an all-male creative organization. And I was taught how to pitch. And most of our orientation was about the hero's journey. It was about connecting to what our customers were caring about, what they were feeling. That's where we focused our energy when we were creating our stories, which is really a lot of what marketing is. From that, I happened to stumble into the first instances, actually pre-consumer internet, what was the very early days of the metaverse. So I participated in some of the very early think tanks, building examples and getting a taste of what was going to happen in these virtual environments. And through that, I was invited in to participate in some of the very first digital marketing companies where we were building for the consumer internet. And so one of the things that I remember Nicole doing was putting me on a plane to go pitch the internet. I don't even know if you remember that, but literally we're flying into countries to say, no, really, it's okay. Come on to the internet. One day you will give your credit card to the internet. And so this was part of the business building and also the promise. And so as we are doing a lot of what I'm going to talk about, the innovation that we're talking about, I feel super confident about what we're talking about because I know it's possible. I've taken this ride on mega waves to see how adoption happens. And especially now, we'll talk about the new digital first consumer and how that really is a calling to anyone who is leading a company and what they need to pay attention to. In emotional intelligence, about 8 years ago, I was asked by one of my clients to create a system for them around tapping into their own emotional intelligence. She was a marketer. She was feeling that a lot of her energy was actually being put towards analytics, reducing human beings into numbers, right? When we talk about goal-based growth, what we're doing is a lot of it is reducing and forgetting that there's a human being at the end of our conversation. And all we're doing is sort of looking at numbers. And so her request was really, can you help me systematically return back to thinking about both myself and my emotional intelligence, building that skill, but also how she was relating out into her career and into her activities as a marketer. Why don't we go into the next slide? Thank you, Jeanine. So, what that brings us back to is the circle, right, of marketing. We talked about how emotional intelligence can help us as individuals, as leaders, how we apply it to ourselves. How can we take that knowledge and now apply it to the digital world that any business leader, I don't know any business leader who can escape having to do a little bit of business on the internet, right? And mobile, in a digital environment. So what are some ways that marketers can return back to the fundamentals of human understanding? Where can they focus when they're also trying to balance this really confusing and constantly moving digital world of, let's call it channels, different formats, different ways of messaging, search, right? There are all these different things that reduce our time and ability to spend attention thinking about who the end customer is. So in a top line way, and we'll start to dig into what my team and I began to think about with how advanced technology might enable these things. There are 5 fundamental things about emotional intelligence and how you apply it to marketing. The first one is really thinking about dimensionalizing your understanding of your customers. Now, traditionally, that takes a lot of market research, but there's so much information out in the interwebs that how might we go beyond just what people are doing in their clicks to really thinking about how they're feeling, what their beliefs are. Secondly, how do we begin to think about engaging an entire audience? This is about diversity and inclusion, really, right? So we're seeing a rise in interest around DEI. Why? Well, because in truth, today, most experiences are designed for the majority. They're not actually inclusive. They're designed for what is giving the marketer the majority of clicks. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Thirdly, how do we increase the value as business leaders and marketers of your existing data? How do you make it more meaningful? Today, most businesses are sitting on more data than they know what to do with. They are gathering information about customers, about consumers, about end users, and they're not really using half of it. How do you then turn all of that into an understanding of adapting? Because as we learned in COVID, when we were all quarantining, there were brands after brands that were getting side hit and surprised because all of a sudden, consumers were not doing what they used to do. Their fundamental beliefs were being rocked. Their emotions were being shifted, and businesses were not able to adapt and shift to them. And the ones that were winning were the ones that were listening, paying attention, and were able to shift with what they were hearing. And finally, how does that hit the bottom line? When you are more understandable by more people, more types of people speaking more languages, we talk about the term neurodiversity, right? When you are accommodating what people are with different groups might be interested in, ultimately and fundamentally, you will be able to create a richer and better and more compelling experience that ultimately benefits your bottom line. So here are some things. These are 5 things that my co-founders and I began to think about. And this is before we even concepted our business platform. We began to look at what advanced technology could do. ChatGPT is an example of generative AI. What are they applying it to? They're applying it to, replacing creativity. And so, there are lots of technologies that are just sort of toys right now. And so, Jeanine, if we can go to the next, I'm going to talk about 5 things that my team and I started to think about as people who've been playing in this space, actually customers of all the tools, as marketers, as technologists, looking and saying, gosh, what would we like? What would we like knowing what AI can do? So the first thing we thought was, gosh, increasing our understanding of customers, consumers, We'd love to know more. How can we do this in a more dimensional way without breaking the privacy trust? Without breaking the privacy trust. So, is there a way to do this without having to know who that person is explicitly? We thought there was. Let's go to the second one. How can we use AI to increase a greater set of our audience? Not unintentionally insult them, not unintentionally present a value proposition that isn't of interest, even though you actually have a value proposition that is of interest. Not using language that might be turning them off or shutting them down, but really thinking about how to be more inclusive with your entire audience. And is there a way to use AI to do that with your first-time customers, people who are just arriving? We thought there was. Thirdly, how do you increase the utility of your first-party data? You're sitting on all this information around behavior, but how can we make it more human? How can we bring human understanding into it? And we'll talk about a network knowledge graph and what that is and how to unleash that. So I'm going to spend one moment and be a little bit technical here. So knowledge graphs, there are lots of different ways to use artificial intelligence and to actually inform artificial intelligence. What a knowledge graph is something that is taking lots and lots of data, and it makes it visible by finding common sets of attributes. And then we use machine intelligence to actually gather that and help us see patterns. So just remember that as we keep going through. How do we get faster? So today, I would say the bulk of large companies at scale have a fairly slow path to finding information, observing shifts in their consumers, and then responding to it. The only time they're getting deep understanding about shifting beliefs, shifting emotions, responses to things, is really running a marketing survey, right? So we're talking about a month. You have to pull in people, poll them, process the data. Then you have to go into your infrastructure, your technology group, marketing group, start to really figure out how you're actually going to get that out into all of your marketing materials. Might there be a faster, better way to do that beyond just using behavioral data? That's all the clicks. Demographic data, which is a summary, right? So it's a kind of a rough brush. And might we learn more about what the actual shifts are and then immediately activate that at scale? We thought there was with AI. Finally, how do we help increase your entire sales funnel? So a funnel, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about a funnel for those who are not marketers. We call the funnel, the top of the funnel is advertising. So it's all the activities that marketers do to get the attention of target consumers. And then we come down the funnel, and you lose more people as you get closer and closer to your end experience, your brand experience. And at that brand experience level, that is where what we call the true conversion happens. And that true conversion is achieving your business goals. So the question is, how can you retain that by the time you get down to the bottom level where the real transitions happen, where you win hearts? where you win hearts. And that's a problem that the team of co-founders and I set out to solve. So we looked at the entire funnel and we said, where is the most interesting, biggest challenge for marketers? It's really at the experiential level. And the tools that marketers have today result in, you've got, let's call it the top of your funnel, 100%, right? You've got all these different mechanisms to draw people in and grab their attention. And then down the funnel, astonishingly, every time I look at these numbers, I'm like, oh, right? Your average conversion rate for an e-commerce experience is 2.5%. So you've spent millions of dollars up top trying to attract and engage attention, and all the way down, you've only got 2.5% of that audience. So that's what we're talking about. You've got this big audience and then boom, down to the bottom. We looked at 14 industries. The average conversion rate across those was 3.9. So think about when we talk about entire audience, by the time you get down, you're not relating. You're not relating. Like, this isn't right for me. So down the funnel, what's happening is your original audience for your advertising is saying, nah, not for me, right? Hemorrhaging off. They're just peeling off. Well, let's return back to the fundamentals, which I had to learn in advertising, right? Which is, how are decisions made? Decisions are made emotionally and unconsciously. There's a lot of what we believe quietly at the essence of who we are, what we believe, how we are feeling, what motivates us. And so our objective was to unlock the ability for the marketers and the people who own the experience at the bottom to do better. So we put our stake in the ground to say, listen, we want to start a revolution. And it's around bringing back consumer understanding to those who are powering the emotionally intelligent and making their experiences more emotionally intelligent. Right. So we feel like we're at the tip of the iceberg. We feel that there's so much more, but this is why we're declaring that we believe there is a call to all of those marketing technologies to bring back consumer understanding as the let's call it the power tool for marketers to use.
And if I may add to that, Janis, I mean, we've just gotten so far away from caring about the human, from being close to that 95% of decisions are made unconsciously or emotionally. And as marketers, we're using all these technologies and trying to put them together, and man, we lose the person at the other end.
It's easy not to care when you're looking at a statistic. It's easy not to care, right? There's like dots, and we get obsessed with like trying to hit our goals and looking at numbers. And so the question is, how can we manipulate AI to our will so that it is helping us become more able to bring emotional intelligence into our experiences? So thank you. So the thing that we set out to tackle was solving this problem at scale with less technology skills required. At scale, because that's really where it gets complicated. The average amount of time it takes for a company to bring on an optimization system is a year to get that integrated into your entire experience. And then once you've done that, the skill and training that it takes of your marketers so that they're able to understand the analytics also goes up. And so we set out to figure out, how can we do this where what we're doing is we're returning the fun back to, and the interesting part about human understanding back into the hands of the marketers. So that's what they're focusing on. So I'm going to talk about 5 enabling technologies. I left in our language that we use because I just wanted this to be an informative moment. At the top of this is something we call predictive AI. And it's not that the AI is predicting. What it is that the marketer is predicting what each of their audiences, each of their different audience groups may want and what might resonate with them. And what the AI does is the AI begins to match and say, oh, this individual is coming in. You've determined that this experience is the best experience for them. And so traditionally today, that is done by a marketer trying to match. And it is a really exhausting and emotionally diminishing exercise. It's called experimentation. And so instead of having the humans do the experimentation, what we did was we flipped it and we said, what if the humans didn't have to do the experimentation? The engine did the experimentation and the matching, and the humans got to create and predictive experiences. Knowledge graph, we talked a little bit about that. So what we have done is we have built a knowledge graph around psychographics, behaviors, and activities, and also emotions. Sorry, I left that off. And so we've done that in a way that is fairly massive. So today we have 75 million consumers in this network. And here's the other piece about it. It's completely anonymous. We've built multiple walls because a team of engineers that I'm working with are all ex-finance solvers. So we're like, okay, how can we do this? Because we don't really need to know your name. We don't really need to know where you live to relate to you. And then finally, we wanted to tackle, how can we do this in a low code, no code way? And what that means is with one click, you're on. And you're able to now transform your experience, your brand experience. I'm going to take a moment and talk about our psychographic model. Regardless of whether this is done mechanically, with technology, or with our heart, these are the 4 things that we believe marketers need to pay attention to and need to keep top of mind all the time. It's really the fundamental, if you look at this, at the core of this is, how can we pay more attention to people's beliefs? How can we pay more attention to what they believe about their relationship to money, what they believe about their relationship to how they belong, what they believe about aspiration? Are they optimistic or pessimistic? Do they believe that a digital life is enriching them? What if we understood that someone was really growth-minded and was really curious and they always research things before they purchase? Think about how might you have a different introduction and a different dialogue with a customer as they came in if you understood that the reason they were there was about security as opposed to the deal. Or what they really cared about was saving time and being efficient because they had so many things and they were like a little bit harried and a little bit busy, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to give you 50% off. So just think about that as we think about what are the more graceful relational ways we can approach our customers. And ultimately, for me, it's about caring.
Yeah, that is so mind-blowing to me. And also the fact that someone may show up in a different mood. I mean, we're human beings. Day to day, I may not feel as optimistic, or I may not be as focused on money or some of these different attributes. And so, it's ever changing.
So I'm going to take you really quickly through this because I know that we want to get to questions. Here's a very 5,000-foot level of how we do this. So a visitor comes, and what happens is that triggers our engine, and a prediction is requested. What that prediction is around what is the best experience to provide to this individual. When I say experience, I mean, what is the right imagery? What is the right language? What is the right offer? Do they like a dollar incentive, or do they like a percentage incentive? Right? Is it all about providing for family, or is that all about the latest and greatest? And so the AI basically looks into, and all these little dots is a knowledge graph, all these different communities. And these communities have attributes that are enriching a business's first party data. So you hold your data, and what we do is we enhance it. We don't need it. What we're doing is we're empowering it to be smarter. So you have a greater viewpoint. And through that psychographic insight, the system basically does the matching. And it says, oh, this person is in this community. You've predicted that people who have these kinds of attributes, who are growth minded or are research oriented or love a deal, will want this kind of experience. So for the marketer, it's the best. You're just sitting there creating okay, I've got 5, 10 different kinds of customers who are going to come and want to be with my brand. How do I talk to each one? And so the marketer's job is to really think about that. We orient them to their customer first, and then the AI does all of the matching. And it assembles the right presentation to them, all the different assets. And then at the end, not only does the customer have an experience that is optimized for them, we also keep the marketer oriented to their customer audience by not just showing conversions on goal, we actually show them insightfully the emotional psychographic of their customers. And this is what we're talking about by entire audience. Because when we are tuning traditionally for just majority wins, what is giving us the greatest conversion, we're not paying attention to the other segments of audience who might be great customers, but somehow you are not speaking to them. Three takeaways. We keep hitting on this number. It's really important. 95% of decisions are unconscious and emotionally driven. Really important. And in the future, which is right now, understanding your entire audience and paying attention to them are the watchwords. And here's why. As we emerge from COVID, what officially happened is consumers moved into digital first shopping. Even if they're walking into the store, they're checking you out digitally. Before, that wasn't true. And so it's really important to pay attention to all the emotional tenor of all of your audience. 2, look for enabling technologies that prioritizes AI as a workforce multiplier. What does that mean? It means look for AI that helps you do the grunge work easier so you can focus on your human understanding, as opposed to replacing you in doing that creation. And third, emotional intelligence absolutely increases the ability for business leaders to be able to anticipate what is happening, not be rocked, but flow.